Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into something absolutely crucial, demystifying the life-saving principles of MRI safety and patient preparation. Look, whether you're a radiography student just starting out or a seasoned healthcare professional transitioning over to the MR department, these concepts aren't just about passing your next exam. They are quite literally the difference between life and death in your daily workflow. Mastering these fundamentals is step one to becoming an exceptional, confident radiographer. So let's just get right into it. Have you ever wondered why the MRI suite is considered, potentially, the most dangerous room in the entire hospital? Think about it for a second. We have operating rooms with incredibly sharp scalpels and emergency rooms filled with all sorts of infectious diseases. Yet, the MRI suite holds a unique, completely invisible threat. It's a room where a simple, everyday mistake can turn fatal in a fraction of a second, with absolutely no warning. So here is the single most crucial point of your entire career. The magnet is always on. Even when the machine isn't actively scanning a patient, in the middle of the night, or even during a holiday power outage, that massive static magnetic field is awake and it is pulling. You can't just flip a light switch or unplug it from the wall. It's an ever-present force just waiting for one moment of complacency. Okay, to truly understand the strict safety rules we enforce every single day, we first need to quickly look at how this incredible technology interacts with the human body. And don't worry, we're going to keep the physics incredibly simple here. The human body is mostly water, which means we are essentially just full of hydrogen protons. Normally, these protons are pointing in completely random directions, minding their own business, kind of like a disorganized crowd of people just wandering aimlessly. But the exact moment a patient lies down inside that scanner, wow, those disorganized hydrogen protons snap to attention. They immediately align themselves with the scanner's massive magnetic field, lining up either parallel or anti-parallel. Imagine millions of tiny little compass needles inside your body suddenly acting in perfect synchronization, pointing strictly north or south. It's this incredible, unseen physical alignment that forms the entire foundation of how we generate a medical image. Now, while these protons are uniformly aligned, they aren't completely frozen in place. They actually wobble at a very specific, calculated frequency around the magnetic field. Think of a child's spinning top right before it falls. As it spins rapidly, the top itself wobbles in a tight little circle. That wobbling motion is called precession, and it's this exact, predictable motion that lets us send in radio waves and capture those highly detailed, life-saving images. But here is the terrifying dark side of that incredible magnetic power. Because of this immense pull, everyday ferromagnetic items can instantly become lethal projectiles. The magnet exerts massive translational forces that pull metal straight toward the center of the bore with violent speed. We're talking about a simple paperclip or a hairpin reaching 40 miles per hour. Larger items? An innocent oxygen tank, a pair of scissors, a floor buffer, or a standard wheelchair. These will literally fly across the room and become deadly weapons. Knowing all of that, your role transforms into something entirely different. You step into the most important part of your job, acting as a meticulous medical detective. Your primary defense against the violent projectile effect and an array of other invisible hazards is to exhaustively screen your patients before they ever step foot near that room. You are the absolute gatekeeper. The safety of the entire hospital floor relies entirely on your diligence. Now, you absolutely must memorize these 3 official categories to determine if a patient's medical implant or device is allowed in the suite. MR safe means it poses no known hazards anywhere. MR unsafe means it is completely prohibited, end of story. But MR conditional? Well, that's where you really earn your paycheck. These items are a giant maybe. They're safe only under highly specific, strictly tested conditions, like a very precise magnetic field strength or a strict maximum scan time. During your screening, you are going to constantly ask repeated questions. Patients might get a bit annoyed, sure, but you have to do it because hidden dangers are literally everywhere. A patient might have a cardiac pacemaker, an older ferromagnetic aneurysm clip in their brain, or a cochlear ear implant. We even ask what they do for a living. Why? Because if they're a welder, they might have microscopic metal fragments lodged in their eye. We also rigorously screen for pregnancy, since MRI safety during the first trimester requires highly specialized clinical consideration. We ask these exhaustive questions because exposing unapproved devices to the field isn't just about external objects flying across the room. Actually, the real danger is often invisible and internal.
The rapidly changing magnetic fields and radio frequency pulses can induce electric currents deep inside the patient. This can cause an implant to severely heat up, physically twist and tear the surrounding internal tissue, or, in the case of a pacemaker, deliver completely inappropriate, terrifying shocks directly to the patient's heart.
Okay, so once your detective work is done and you've confidently cleared the patient for their exam, the physical prep begins. This is where we set the stage for the safest, most comfortable imaging experience possible. It's no longer just about preventing a disaster, it's about actively managing the clinical workflow so the patient feels completely at ease and the resulting images are as clear and diagnostic as possible. By diligently following these specific steps, we ensure absolutely zero ferromagnetic materials accidentally slip into the suite. We reviewed a questionnaire one more time, we have them remove all jewelry, watches, and piercings. Crucially, we have the patient change into a pocketless hospital gown. You might be wondering, why pocketless? Because patients routinely forget keys or coins in their pockets. If their specific scan requires it, this is also when we verify they've followed any required fasting protocols. Finally, if contrast is needed, we'll perform the IV cannulation here, way before they ever see the magnet. Once inside the bore, the patient is hit with some intense sensory input. The machine creates loud, rapid, knocking noises that can reach up to 140 decibels. That is literally the volume of a jet engine. Combined with a tight space and the strict rule to stay perfectly still, claustrophobia and extreme anxiety are incredibly common. This is where your job is to proactively step in. You provide mandatory ear protection, set up mirrors so they can see out of the bore, play some calming music, and offer constant reassurance through the intercom system. Look, as a beginner transitioning into this complex field, it is so easy to make simple mistakes that carry extremely dangerous real-world consequences in your daily workflow. But remember, safety isn't just about rigorously screening the patient, it's also about how you operate the sophisticated equipment and manage the physical environment around you. So let's look at the things you absolutely want to get right from day one. For example, you must constantly monitor the specific absorption rate, or SAR. This is a crucial measure of how much radiofrequency energy the patient's tissues are actively absorbing during the scan. The RF pulses we use to create the image are deposited directly into the body as heat. Think of how a microwave warms things up using energy waves. It's a very similar principle. Ignoring the SAR limit set by your scanner can lead to dangerous core temperature rises and severe tissue burns. So, what are the most common pitfalls you need to avoid? First, never rush your safety checks. Complacency is your absolute worst enemy here. Next, never allow ECG cables or surface coils to loop. These loops act exactly like antennas, induce massive electrical currents, and cause third-degree burns. Don't allow skin-to-skin contact, which creates a conductive loop. And never, ever bring unauthorized equipment past the 5 Gauss line. That's the invisible boundary on the floor where the magnetic pulse suddenly crosses the threshold from harmless to dangerously strong. All right, let's wrap this up with the absolute golden rule you must carry into your career every single day. The magnet is never off. The invisible forces are always waiting. So if you are ever unsure whether an implant is safe, if a patient's history is muddy, or if you just have a bad feeling about a piece of equipment, simply do not scan. Pause, consult your safety guides, ask a radiologist, but never, ever guess. Are you ready to take your radiography skills to the next level? Remember, as an MRI tech, you are the last line of defense against an incredible, invisible force. So I'll leave you with this question. Next time you walk into a hospital suite, what invisible dangers might you be walking right past? Keep your eyes open, protect your patients, and make sure to subscribe for more educational explainers on MRI and cardiac MRI. See you next time.